Do you think that you are often tarred with the Kubrick thing of being too cerebral, or Wallace Stevens, for example? Those
Yeah.
two also are good examples of being completely misunderstood
Well,
in that
yeah.
aspect.
But
Because I mean, as a personal side, I have got to know you over the last year or two, and I can definitely tell a lot of emotion in you. That despite the fact that you have a lot of drive artistically, that you're also very sensitive and in touch with your own emotions and others.
yeah. Well, I do think. I mean, I know a lot of these, like in the third play where or the second play. I didn't mention, but where I quote these trolls online that Jessica had found. Jessica's always looking shit up, what people say about me or whatnot. I myself don't really give a shit, and I don't, maybe once or twice a year, I'll look something up about me occasionally if I'm totally bored and I'm tired and have nothing to do. But Jessica's constantly looking this shit up, and I'm like, why are you looking this shit up? But I mean, certainly a lot of these morons will say, oh, blah blah blah. There's no emotion or whatnot. I mean, and certainly I know these fucking idiots don't have any critical ability or artistic ability. But I don't want that to become a meme about me when it's clearly not true. I mean, emotion is stippled throughout most of my books. My poems are often deeply emotional. The love poems that I wrote for Jessica and other girls I knew before that, writing about my cats, my animals that I love. That poem I quote at the end of Big Al's Gina, the Bank of Manhattan Trust uh, poem. That one has, it's a mirror to what I did with the scene with Big Al and Gina. In fact, I was actually going to use the Twin Towers canon poem there, but formatting got a little weird, and I said, after I tried several times to fit it in there, I said, I could put that in there. I had some formatting issues on a Norwegian in the Family too, in some of those sections where I had maybe 3 columns going. But I said, no, maybe this is a sign. I said, because since they're looking at the Twin Towers canon, as great a poem as since they're looking at the Twin Towers, as great a poem as the Twin Towers canon is, which is a double sestina, that would be too much. So I said, well, why don't I, instead of mirroring it by having it about the Twin Towers, let me mirror it by having the poem about a different building, but having the same thing of an older male and a young girl talking. So I have the poetic and then the dramatic situation sort of playing off of each other. And so the poem is scrolling upwards as the characters are sort of living a similar situation. Again, this is a way to bring filmic kind of technique into all this. To do things, I mean, we're in the fucking 21st century, the third millennium. We should be doing more on theater than just a little bit more than we were doing 100 years ago, or in Shakespeare's time, or in the Greeks. And we really aren't doing that. When I've read plays or seen on public television, and plays of the last 25, 30 years, when I've gotten the opportunity to read them, even those that are good plays, the stuff of a David Mamet or a Shepard, or the woman who wrote the House of Blue Leaves, or Horton Foote, and some even more modern playwrights, August Wilson. Even the very best of them, I'm startled by the lack of imagination in how to make things not only new but better. More importantly, better. Um, and I said I've only had 4 plays, but you'll see sometimes I'll mix and match some of the things I've done already with other things, and there are probably techniques in the next year or two that I'll come up with as I'm going along as well. But again, you just have to keep pounding and pounding and pounding till the door comes down. You have to keep doing this shit. So anyway,
I read all the plays in sequence, so I don't recall exactly which play this came from, but I thought that it was an interesting point where you speak about the idea of creation and the fact that it's not just willing out worlds, but also arranging and rearranging things, putting things in a correct order, so to translate something effectively for its audience. Speak about that idea too, because I thought it was a very astute point. And as you were watching that video where you're composing the Ed Gein poem, and taking things and lines from it and putting it all in a linear order, that kind of is is in sync with this other insight that you brought to mind.
I forget which play it's from too, but not that it really matters. But yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, for example, I quote. I translated the Rilke Archaic Torso of Apollo poem that, along with When You Are Old, I have Yeats and Rilke.
That was your translation.
Yeah, I wasn't.
So.
I looked.
I would say that it's a better translation than the Mitchell or Snow version.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I did was I took the original German, I put it in one of those German to English translators to get the literal, the little transliteration. Then I looked at McIntyre, Mitchell, Snow, and a couple of other ones just to see the choices that they made. So I don't know if mine is probably not as faithful as some, but it's probably more faithful than others. But there are a couple of moments in that translation that you can see are very Schneider-like with alliteration. I do a better job alliteratively than I think any of the other translations. And for example, I think it's Mitchell who has, "For here there is no place that does not see you. You must change your life." His is the only translation that put "here" in there. I remember in all of the other ones and in the transliteration it says "there." For there is no place. So I don't know why he put "here" there is. That's one of the things that always stuck out in that translation. But translation is sort of like that. And I've said how art translates the cosmos. So all of these plays and other stuff have to be these transliterations. Or rather translations of these things. Taking things, bringing them, putting them apart, sometimes having repetitions, sometimes having things that are unexplained that I don't know, like the little white girl that appears to the woman with Alzheimer's. How do I display a mind with Alzheimer's there? Well, I think by having the dramatic thing of the mother speaking and the lights are all up, so that they're all, she's speaking, they're hearing, but when they speak back to her, the light's only on them. The mother's in dark, and she can't hear it. And then in the second replay of that, the daughters, I think in both of them, the two younger daughters sort of drop to the floor, and some stagehands then pull them off. They have now died in their mother's mind, and then Cassie, comes. Then Cassie has died too, and then she has this monologue. And at the end of the play, she has another monologue too, that's very similar to the tonal feel of the interiors, where she's seeing things. And in all of the plays, but especially in this Exteriors, there are numbers of people and things that are referenced that we have no idea what she's talking about. It's like, oh, there I saw Bill fishing at the end of the pier or something. And we don't know what that character's relationship is to this, but it's important to the character. And that's the important thing, that it's important to the character. We as the audience, and even me as the author, don't need to know, because these characters can have private lives. That's one of the meanings of the term exteriors. We're seeing them exteriors, but they have private lives. Another thing about the exteriors is these are black characters that seem white on the inside. 2 or 3 times they're referred to as Oreos, jokingly amongst themselves. They're black exteriors, but they don't have, they're not people who are eating soul food. They're not listening to rap. They're not listening to soul music. In one of the scenes, Danny and Cassie say that they had sex listening to the hard rock band, The Cult, Electric, in 1987. That was a big album that was out that year. And as I said, even though the girl that I had the one-night stand with was not black, we did do it to the music of The Cult and Electric. And so Danny says, I thought it was really cool that a black chick liked hard rock music, kind of thing. And so the term exteriors, the title, has multiple meanings beyond just the racial thing, though.